the 2023 free response questions. This video will be going over question 1. So here we go. So on the left here, I'm going to have the questions right there, and then I'm going to be putting my answers over here. So you can basically see everything that I'm thinking. I'm going to write down, so that way you know what you need to be thinking when you do the exam. So the question says, RKB is a profit maximizing monopoly that produces a new patented electronic device. RKB is earning an economic profit. So on your scratch sheet, because you're going to have 2 sheets, you're going to have a booklet for your answers and a booklet for your scratches. Like basically write down everything you need on the scratch sheet, and then the answers you're going to write in the answer booklet. So here's what I would put in the scratch book. So first off, they're profit maximizing. So that means that they are MR equals MC. They are also a monopoly. The second thing is that they're earning an economic profit. Positive economic profit, which would mean that price is more than your ATC. A, draw a correctly labeled graph for RKB. So for A, here's what you need to do. You need to do price, you need to do quantity, you need to do demand, marginal revenue, marginal cost. Okay. Then they ask you to do QM. So remember, QM happens wherever MR equals MC. So that's QM. And then to find price, we go up to demand. The next thing they ask you to do is the average total cost showing positive economic profit. So you'll do this. Notice that my ATC is below my price. The next thing they ask you is to shade the deadweight loss completely. The deadweight loss is everything between marginal cost and demand. So between marginal cost and demand. So that's going to be here. Okay. So that is what we're looking for on the first part on A. This right here, this graph is everything you need for A. Okay. Part B. The government wants RKB to produce the allocated efficient quantity. Would the government impose a binding price ceiling, binding price floor, per unit tax, or a lump sum tax? Well, first off, a lump sum tax does not change quantity. Second, they say the allocative efficient quantity. Now remember, allocative efficient means price equals MC. So basically, and you do not have to do this, okay? But basically what they're saying is that they want you to be here at QE. They want you to be at that quantity, okay? So they want you to be where price equals MC. So how can we do that? Well, a lump sum tax is not going to change quantity. A per unit tax, that will increase marginal cost, and as you can see here, if we increase the marginal cost, quantity is going to go down if you increase the marginal cost. So that's not going to be it either. Now, do we need to do a binding price floor or binding price ceiling? Well, what's the difference? Well, we are trying to say, hey, you're charging too much. You need to lower price. You cannot go above this price here. That is a binding price ceiling. So for B, you would say the government would impose a binding price ceiling. That's what you would put there. C. Suppose that the government does not impose the policy identified in B. Consumers now become aware of research that confirms the use of this new device harms users' vision. Given widespread consumer awareness of this research, what will happen to RKB's profit maximizing quantity in the short run? So with that, what's happening there is that people learn that this harms their vision. So what happens? Well, demand's going to go down. And if demand goes down, that means that the quantity goes down and the price goes down. Now, this also will decrease the marginal revenue. And if your marginal revenue goes down, that's going to decrease your quantity. Now, what we mean by that is that here is your demand and your marginal revenue, and here's your marginal cost. So this QM here is your quantity. But if we have a decrease in demand, such as here, and we decrease the marginal revenue, right? I'm drawing the same graph here, but I have to draw a new marginal revenue. You can now see that my quantity is here. So my quantity is decreasing. So what happens to the profit max quantity? Profit max quantity will decrease. So for part C, profit max quantity will decrease because because consumers will demand less of the good, which will decrease marginal revenue at will decrease the marginal revenue and intersect the marginal cost at a lower quantity. Okay? That's part C. Part D. Assume that RKB hires workers in a perfectly competitive labor market. Draw a labeled graph of the labor market showing the equilibrium wage and quantity of labor, WE, QE. So here's the deal. They say a perfectly competitive labor market. So we read the word market, and your first thought is, oh, that's just demand and supply. Okay, and then this would be the firm. This was the firm. Okay, because this is your supply labor, and this is your MRP. But the question was asking you for the labor market. So all we're going to do is the wage, the quantity of labor, the demand for labor, and the supply of labor. And you're going to put the equilibrium, WE, QE. And that should be the only things that you need to put for part I. Just WE, QE. Part II. Suppose immigration increases the number of workers in this labor market on your graph in part DI. So you do not need to draw a new graph. You just need to use the graph you did here. Show the new equilibrium wage and quantity of labor labeled W2, Q2. So what happened? We have more workers. This will change the supply. So we will increase the supply of labor, SL2, and this is going to create a new equilibrium, W2, Q2, and I like to put in the arrows about what happened. Okay, so that's all you need to put for DII. Now, DIII. So for that one, RKB uses the optimal combination of labor, capital and labor in its production process. The firm rents capital at $500 per unit. The last unit of capital rented has a marginal product of 2,500 units. If the marginal product of the last unit of labor is 1,000, calculate the wage rate. So here's the deal. They said they are using the optimal combination. So that means they are doing MPL, price of labor, equals MPK, price of K. Now, what is the marginal product of labor? Well, they gave it to you. That is 1,000. The marginal product of the last unit of labor is 1,000. The price of labor, that's the question. Calculate the wage rate. We don't know that. Do we know the marginal product of capital? Yes, it's 2,500. And finally, the price of capital is 500 because that is what you are renting the capital for. All you need to do for this is plug in your numbers. So that'd be 1,000 over the wage, because we don't know the wage, 2,500, 500. To solve for W, or wage, you will cross multiply. So you will do 1,000 times 500 equals 2,500 times W. So that would be 500,000 equals 2,500 W. To solve this, you will divide, and then that would be equal to 200 if you put this in your calculator. So that would be your wage. And the question does say show your work, so you will have to show the work that I did right here. You will have to show all that algebra to get to the answer. All right, so that was question 1. A brief review of what we did. All we did was a monopoly graph. Okay, as long as you know what a graph for a monopoly looks like when they're making profits, you're going to get a lot of points. Number 2, they have a binding price ceiling because they want to decrease the price. All the other choices will not change the quantity. The other choices will not increase the quantity. The only way we can increase the quantity is if we force the monopoly to have a lower price. Part C, because of the decrease in demand, this is going to decrease the marginal revenue and intersect the marginal cost at a lower quantity. You do not have to draw the graph. The only thing you need to do there is answer the question and explain it. Part D, we have the labor market. All it was the supply and demand. If you're wondering why did we not draw this, the question only asked you for the labor market. If they wanted the firm graph, they would have to specifically ask you to draw the firm graph. They would have to say firm. And then we had an increase in the supply. So we increased supply to the right, which will lower wage, increase quantity. And then finally, we did the least cost combination, where we had MPL divided by price is equal to the MPK divided by price of capital. We solved for W, because that was the question, and we got 200. So that was everything for question 1. In the next video, I will be going over question 2. Hope to see you there. Thank you so much. Have a good day.